Hello, it's been a while. Today I am back with a card featuring the Happy Mushrooms die set from Fawn. I've decided I'm going to color my mushrooms with some alcohol markers. These are the Ohuhu markers. You can go ahead and screenshot this if you want to reference it later. I wasn't sure if I was going to use the more yellowy colors. I did end up using one of those colors, but not all of them. So to start with, I'm going to take my little mushroom caps and I'm going to color them with my R markers. So I wanted some slightly darker than the others so that there was some contrast between the mushrooms. For the mushrooms, I'm going to keep the coloring pretty simple. Right here, I'm just going to use the darkest color on the very bottom and then a little bit more towards the right side. And I'm going to do the same thing for each of the mushroom caps. I'm going to go in with my mid-tone, sort of dragging it over the darker color just to kind of blend it out a little bit more. I'm going to leave some space and then I'm going to do my lightest color. For this particular mushroom, I did feel like there was too much of a harsh line between the dark and mid-tone, but I figured I would let it dry and see what it looked like after the colors had had time to dry a little bit. Spoiler alert, it did need a second coat. Also, quick note, if you hear weird sounds in the background, I am currently in the car in a parking lot waiting for one of my children to get done in class. So this isn't where I normally record, but we have roosters in the neighborhood now and you can hear them make noise on top of the car sounds and cats and birds and squirrels and whatever. So I don't really have a good quiet place to record anymore. So I apologize. Now I have had this mushroom die set for a little while now. And when I went to start making a card, I had fully anticipated making one that was more Valentine's Day themed. I personally don't love Valentine's Day. Like, it's kind of whatever. But I actually really enjoy making red and pink cards, which is also interesting considering those are not my favorite colors. I don't usually use them a ton. I say that. I don't know. Hearts and stuff just seem to be fitting if they're red and or pink. So anyway, this card specifically was made because I am currently playing a Spore Druid in D&D, and she collects mushrooms and stuff. So yeah, I was heavily inspired by her to make this card. When your hobbies merge. It worked out for me though. Like, it was interesting, it was different. It's not something that I would normally make necessarily. I mean, I bought the mushrooms, so I had full intentions of using them. I just thought I would make a card that had a little bit more something than just mushrooms. This whole process, it was mostly just me flying by the seat of my pants. I didn't have anything fully fleshed out before I started with my card, and I used to try to plan better so that when I recorded, it was more, smooth and I had to edit out less. And that just, I don't know. It's not that I had a lot of issues, because I really didn't, but it just wasn't a lot of planning to start with. So going into this whole thing, I wasn't really sure how exactly it was going to look based on not having planned it out. Like, usually I have an idea in my head, and this was real loose. Like, the only reason I didn't struggle with my colors is because I just looked through the little book that I had made of color combinations that I had found on Pinterest, and I was determined I was going to pick one of those color combinations so that I didn't have to use that many brain cells to figure it out. And here's where I decided to incorporate that Y120, because I placed my little mushroom cap onto the solid piece to create the little dots, and it just was too stark of a contrast between the white and the reddish color, so I thought this yellow color would work pretty well. Now, once all my mushroom parts are colored, I am going to pull out my Radiant Heart backdrop die, and I'm going to turn it sideways to use it. I don't think I've ever really used it the way it was fully intended. But anyway, I am going to cover up that center bit. I am going to splatter this so that it matches a little bit better. I have peeled paint and old paper distress oxides. I'm just smushing them on my stamp block. I am watering them down, and then I'm taking a paintbrush and kind of just splattering over the background. So after I clean up my mess, I'm going to glue the cap parts of my mushrooms together. I had originally thought I would just glue the stem straight to the cap, but then I thought maybe a little bit of foam tape would help it be just a little bit more interesting to look at, so that the cap actually pops off of the stem just a little bit, just enough so that it looks like, there's some depth there. For my background behind the radiant heart backdrop, I always forget what those are called. I have just cut out a large stitch rectangle in this yellowy color, something that was close to my Y120 marker. And now I have a scalloped circle. I am just going to adhere that with foam tape right over that heart. And this took me a minute to get it centered because, I don't know, the heart isn't an even shape once you go from the top to the bottom. So I was struggling just a little bit. But I finally got it up there, roughly where I wanted it, and now I'm going to glue down my little foliage sprigs. For the life of me, I don't know what these are called. They're pretty. I'm just not good with botany. But all of these are just going to get glued flat. I really wasn't sure where exactly I wanted these. I did want to leave some room for sentiment at the bottom, which is why right now it looks kind of strange because they're what would seem way too high up on the panel. But you'll see in a minute. It turns out okay. So I'm just trying to figure out where I want the mushroom caps so that I can go ahead and glue the stems of the mushrooms in place, just flat. Once all my mushroom stems or stalks or whatever you want to call them are in place, I am going to pop the little mushroom caps onto some foam tape and then adhere them. I did make the bottom mushroom, the smallest one, double layered so that it stuck out just a little bit farther than the other two. Now that all the mushrooms and the foliage are there, I have this little banner and this cranberry ink from Fawn, and I'm just going to stamp I love you on it. Now, this was not perfect, and I contemplated redoing it, but there was no guarantee I was going to get it centered the second time, so I just left it. It's fine. It's handmade. Alright, so that's the first part of my sentiment. And for the second part of my sentiment, I'm using the what is this? Henry's ABC die set, and I'm creating the word spore. Now I'm going to color it with some distress oxide in the color peeled paint, and I'm just using some washi tape to keep my letters still, or so I thought. You see, I struggle with it. Whatever. I got it done. Yeah, here's where I start to struggle, where the letters start falling off. And I just keep putting them back up there like that's going to do something. And then I bring in my card and see, oh, well, that looks a little too yellow. And so I want to make it just a little bit darker. Not fully rustic wilderness, but I'm going to go over just a little bit with the rustic wilderness to add a little bit of a deeper green to those. And yeah, they just keep falling off, and I keep insisting on putting them back like that's doing any good. They're not even sticking at this point. I don't know what I was thinking. Once my struggle was over, I'm trying to figure out if I actually like the way this looks. So I lay them up there and realize that they just look a little flatter than I wanted them to. And so I thought about adding a shadow in a different color. So I cut those letters out again, and I colored them with the yellowy color. And then I did another one with that reddish color. Decided I didn't like any of that, and I had already cut all these out. And when am I going to use them in this particular color combination? Not sure. So I decide I would just stack them all up on each other. So green's going on top, and I'm trying to make sure you don't actually see the other ones underneath. So this is a step you can definitely skip. This was just me struggle bussing my way through this card. Like I said, got rusty, didn't really plan the best beforehand. I kept getting interrupted. I was trying. But anyway, once these are glued on, I am going to add some little white dots, sort of like the dots on the mushroom caps. I thought that would be kind of cute. I know a lot of people do like little dots and dashes and stuff on their letters anyway to make them pop, and this kind of reminded me of that, but I didn't want to go full dots everywhere. Just a hint, to kind of tie it in with the rest of the mushroom look. But after that, I felt like the card needed a little bit more of that reddishy pink color, so I have cut some hearts out, colored them in with 2 of the red markers, and I'm just sprinkling them along the card, kind of more towards the upper left corner and the bottom right-hand corner. And then after that, my card is complete. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll be back with another video at some point. Bye!